Hello and welcome to the Sensibly Speaking podcast. This is Chris Shelton, the critical thinker at large.
This is Ruth McLeod, the son of an atheist.
And we are coming at you for show number 43.
Golly.
I know, right?
It rhymes. By the way, I have to go ahead and apologize. I'm going through some wicked allergies right now, and if I cough a little bit, I'm just going to roll off and do some coughing and then come back. But okay. I'm going to attempt to not step on you, and I'm going to also attempt to not. That's why I've got my right.
Okay, good. Yeah, it's been a little rough here in Colorado the last week or two with spring and summer and whatnot coming in. I've been feeling a little bit of it myself.
Damn trees having sex in the air. It's ridiculous.
It's just tree porn all over the place here.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, pretty bad. Now, this last weekend, maybe some of you watched our recap video on the Reason Rally, the night that it happened at our hotel room. We just kind of...
his, not our.
No. Oh, sorry, my hotel room.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Whoa. Yeah, in my room, we spoke about it. And that was just some of our most immediate, thoughts and feelings and feedback on it. We really had been looking forward to the Reason Rally for a long time. There hadn't been one since 2012. And me being new to the whole atheist skeptic community, relatively new, and I wasn't around in 2012 for this. I was doing other things, otherwise occupied. I thought that this was going to be a really, really amazing event because there aren't lots of skeptic events. There aren't lots of events that are specifically centered around critical thinking. Not on this
scale, at least.
No, and I thought this was like the big daddy of them, right?
It kind of is.
And it wasn't quite as big as, I thought it was going to be. And Hammett made a good point, that wasn't really the point anyway. I mean, The whole thing was on video and whatnot. I basically decided during the course of the thing that, and listening to these speakers and listening to the reason that was put forward and the sort of rationality that a lot of the speakers and guests, like a couple of there was a U.S. senator, a couple of House of Representative members, etc. The language they used and the principles they were talking about definitely kind of got me, pushed over into the atheist camp, so to speak. And it wasn't some big epiphany or something. It was just kind of like, I think that's just the best word to use to describe myself because trying to describe myself any other way, and I seem to be misunderstood.
It was Dave Silverman's speech, wasn't it?
I'm just saying it was just the experience of it. So
thank you, David.
So now, at the same time, though, I don't want to be thinking that changes anything in regards to my very fundamental policy and idea and philosophy of tolerance and understanding and having care, compassion, and respect for anybody who has beliefs. I it's not my place to tell you what you should or shouldn't think or believe when it comes to your own personal, spiritual, or supernatural beliefs.
I think it's interesting that you have to clarify that. After you call yourself an atheist, you have to clarify yourself.
Well, I do, and I do that because, atheists are in a minority.
They are.
They are statistically speaking, one of the most reviled minorities when it comes to opinion polls.
Yeah.
I don't think that's deserved or earned. I know lots of atheists, and they're all wonderful people. But I do have to put that out there because otherwise people will make assumptions that are unwarranted.
There's a very negative stereotype. That's actually been one of my personal goals for atheism ever since I became an atheist, is to change the stereotype about it.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I say that, is because I want people who watch this to know that. Is that I've had nothing but good experiences in dealing with and talking with and making friends with people who call themselves atheists, And also, it's not, I'm going to talk about it right now because we're talking about the Reason Rally, but it's one of the least important parts of my life. This isn't something I'm getting on a soapbox about. Atheism and belief or lack of belief is not a big issue for me. And it's not some big thing that I feel I need to now convert all of you or something like that, or ridicule you because you're not, or something like that. That's not what this channel is about. That's not what this podcast is about. And so I'm just saying that.
Okay.
Yeah. So
that's not what I'm about either. Just so we
no,
all know.
Right. Yeah.
I mean,
that's right. So that being said, one thing that I've talked, I put out a video today, today being Thursday and this podcast going up Saturday. I put up a video today about extremism and tolerance, right? And sort of a direction that my channel's going in, where I'm broadening, the subject matter and whatnot that I'll be talking about beyond just Scientology. I got into this world of skepticism and atheism and whatnot coming right on the heels of coming out of Scientology a couple of years ago. And it was just a real good fit. I consider myself very lucky to have had the experiences that I had and to have met the people that I met who were very understanding and that sort of thing. And I was very, very not wanting to go from one cult to another, right? And I haven't, not in any way. But one thing that has happened over the last couple of years and being involved in the atheist world is also getting tied into this social justice component.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
And now for those of you who don't know, atheism is a very minority group, right? At best it's 1 in 5 people right now who identify as none when you ask what their religious affiliation is. So, you can assume, maybe rightfully or wrongfully assume that most of those people are atheists. But we're talking about a minority group, and within that minority group you have factioning, you have a fractured community. And this was not something I went into knowing or even being aware of at all, but it's happened more so, I think, over the last couple of years, this kind of...
It has been more prevalent.
Yeah.
Especially when Atheism Plus tried to become a thing.
Right.
And that... I was already an atheist, but the more I became active was about when the Atheism Plus kind of shattered in the last 5 years or so.
Mm-hmm. And what was Atheism Plus? What is that?
So the concept of Atheism Plus is that atheism is very closely related to many other social justice issues. Women's rights, fair wage, LGBT community, so on and so forth. Other minority rights is another big one. And the concept was that, well, if we're already fighting an oppression, why not join up with other people and we're all fighting the same oppression, essentially. That's not always the case. And then what happened was you would have somebody who was an atheist, but they didn't necessarily agree with the LGBT community, or you had somebody who was incredibly feminist to the point of extremism, and then you have the more, let's call them moderate atheist, where like that's a little too much for me. So you have like this break off, and then a lot of it kind of went back to the whole idea, oh well, atheism is just run by the old white man. And yeah, a lot of atheists are middle-aged and above white men.
And the not spokesmen, but sort of celebrities of the atheist community, right. Because the atheist community doesn't have a leadership. There's no hierarchy. There's no organization. There's no like, okay, we all follow the words and
we don't have a dogma. Is what you're trying to say.
That's right. Or an organized leadership.
That's correct.
But you do have atheist celebrities, right?
Yes.
And you have these 4 horsemen, as they're called.
Right.
Right. Christopher Hitchens, Richard Dawkins, Sam Harris, and I always forget the 4th guy. Always forget him.
Yeah.
So,
he wrote an incredible book, and you should probably read it one day. But fine.
Right. But they're 4 white guys.
Right. They are.
Right.
And I'm not going to say that that's because atheism is ruled by old white men. Those were just the ones who were standing up and saying something and who got the most attention, whether it's because we have a patriarchy or not. That's just how it happened. But we are starting to get more and more female advocates, and sometimes we see them as a little angry feminists.
And sometimes they are angry feminists.
Sometimes they are. And
Right.
and then sometimes you have the female atheists that are incredibly empowering, and they just get beat down by many different forms. Miriam, I can never say her last name correctly, and I'm not even going to attempt it because I'll be killed in the comments instead of you this time. She is an Iranian woman who escaped persecution, gets death threats on the daily. She was at the Reason rally, and the way that she talked made me realize that there are a lot of issues within the atheist feminist movement. Some of them might be a little bit more important than others. A guy spreading his legs too wide, not important.
Right.
A guy wanting to kill me, that's pretty damn important.
Right.
Well,
so, you guys might not know about this because you might not follow the news in regards to the atheist world, or follow, Hemant Mata or Pathos.com or these kind of outlets. But there are people in the world who are literally butchered and killed in Middle Eastern countries, for example, because
a lot in Bangladesh right now.
Yeah, because they're atheists for no other reason. They literally take their lives into their hands when they post publicly about their atheism or in criticism of the religious establishment that runs their country. And there are, last week there was a guy who was hacked to pieces with, machetes.
Right.
That's real. That happens, right? And so those are very real,
right,
issues.
And we were actually talking about this not only with each other but with a lot of our friends the other day, and we were going to cautiously broach this subject because there are a lot of raw emotions that come with this one. You can tell that when I'm thinking about my words, I'm really trying to be cautious here. Because usually I just blurt out what stupid thing comes to my head. And I don't want to do that this time, because this is something that is very, very sensitive. But I think it's something that needs to be said. I mean, we try to talk about extremism, and we try to thwart extremist views. And this is one of those in the atheist community where we do have our extremists. The quote-unquote SJWs, social justice warriors is what that means. And those are the people who do fall into this atheism plus category. They are secular, they are feminist, they are non-GMO, they are anti-patriarchy, very, very strongly anti-Trump. Fine. The problem is the Reason rally had a lot of bad press from some insider atheists because they thought that it was going to be overrun by SJWs.
Right.
I didn't see any of that.
I didn't either, and that's why we commented on it on that day when we gave our immediate feedback on it. But what that did, that sort of the anti-SJW, propaganda on that, raised some questions for me about it and looking into it. Right now, social justice warriors, so-called people who are, tend to go rather extremist in their views, are not just atheists. This isn't just something that exists in the atheist community, but but within the atheist world, you have a fracture where you have a percentage, and I don't know what the percentage is, of the atheist community who believe that atheism should be aligned with this, and that we should be pushing for this and fighting with this and really working on this very, very hard. And that, that feminism is a very, very, very important issue, and that race relations are a very, very, very important issue, and so therefore they're kind of what the non-social justice warrior percentage of atheists are doing is saying, look, quit co-opting atheism. That's not what we're about, and we never were. The only thing that puts atheists in the same room together is the lack of belief.
Right.
And we're not interested in this other stuff for whatever reason. Some of them are good people and some of them are not so good people. but they're just people, right? Because atheists, really, they're just people.
Right. And we have our stupid people, too.
Yeah.
Totally.
And we got our, all the stereotypes.
Angries, we've got our antisocial, anti-establishments.
Right.
We've got them all.
Just because you don't have a belief in God or gods doesn't mean you're inherently a good person or inherently a bad person. Right. You're just a guy.
We've got our criminals.
So, right. Now, that's not saying that any of these groups are all criminals. That's not our point. It's just our point is all the variety you find in the non-atheist world, you find in the atheist world.
Right.
And so the atheist community has been fractured on this. And the more I've been part of this world for the last couple of years, the more I've sort of been looking at and aligning to some of these social justice issues. And we've, this show has been all about that. We've been talking about, transphobia and LGBT issues a lot because it's something we happen to care about, right? We look at an oppressed minority and we go, that's not cool. These guys aren't doing anything wrong. Great, good. Let's raise some awareness about that and push that forward. In the big picture, kind of a small issue. Actually, how many people in the world are transgender? Not lots. So it's a minority issue. But because it's a minority issue, they can tend to get swept under the rug and oppressed and that kind of thing. And so we wanted to, kind of do our part to say, hey, let's not do that.
Right.
The same thing could be said about atheists in general, right? Well, the problem that we're running into with that awareness was raised about with the Reason Rally was that some of this SJW work becomes extremist, right? Where it's not about the social issues, it's about control. It's about authoritarian, totalitarian control, and thought policing and dictating what you or I should or shouldn't say or do or think.
Right.
And I'm not down with that, right? Like at all. And I know Ruth is totally down with it, but I'm not down with it.
Wait, what?
Just kidding.
Are you just trying to figure out if I was paying attention?
I was just kidding. Yeah, I was just messing with you.
Right.
Yeah. So.
Goddamn patriarchy.
Yeah, I totally.
Look at this white man just talking for me.
That's right.
Ass.
I'm just mansplaining all over the place here. So that became kind of an issue for us. Now this is going to become a future talking point, or we'll be talking about this sort of thing. This is not a mainline issue for us, right? The format of our show is and always has been about trying to just talk sensibly about things. Mm-hmm. But now that this is kind of in our face, it's something to not be ignored because it's there are others in the atheist community who have been speaking out about this, some for quite some time. This isn't a matter of of taking sides where now we're going to be we're I want to avoid black and white thinking here, right? This is my whole philosophy and the whole philosophy of this show and my whole channel has always been non-black and white thinking, that there are shades of gray in everything, right? And so this isn't we're not all in or all out of anything. It's just that there are people who are pushing feminist dogma or race dogma, but they're doing it in such a way as that it's big brotherish.
Right.
And that has to be fought against without taking away from the validity of the message of feminism or race civil rights.
Right. It's still an issue that needs to be covered. Just what you're basically saying is it doesn't need to be covered to the point where you're censoring other people. Right.
Or trying to control them, or in some instances, putting out statements or misinformation, and there will be plenty of this in the future in terms of the statistics and whatnot, but putting out some pretty blatant misinformation in such a way as to, represent all men as potential rapists or something like that. Yeah. Right? This isn't rational.
And Chris, I don't think I've told you this before, but this is interesting to me to hear your perspective about this. Not because you're a middle-aged white man, by the way, but because I've actually been in the atheist activist community for a while. So it's almost, and please don't take this as a negative way, it's almost like you're a baby atheist. And so it's kind of like watching a kid learn about stuff, and you're just kind of sitting back going, oh, I can't wait to see what he does with this. This is so cute. Look at you.
Yeah.
Learning information. So and I'm not going to sit here and say, well, I have a better opinion about this. I've just had longer of a time to think about a lot of these issues.
Yeah.
So the fact that you're coming to it, and I think a lot of our listeners might be coming to it as well, of just taking this journey along with you, and I think it's going to be an interesting thing, and I can't wait to talk about it more.
Yeah.
But before we move on to another part of this, I just want to point out that at the Reason Rally, the only instance of an SJW incident that I saw was in our comment section of our video about it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Dude.
So, like Chris said, we were in his hotel room, and our hotel rooms are exactly the same, except I was 7 floors higher than you. But that's fine.
You
no,
got
it's
the
fine.
better view.
I did. But anyway, no, it just the hotel room had 2 chairs. One was this very plush wingback chair. It was nice. It also had a rolly chair. My name is Rue McRolly Chair. So I said, I'm sitting on the chair. And by the way, I knew the chair was going to fall. Because I sat in it before we started recording, and I fell a little. I'm like, ha, that's funny. And in my stupid head, my stupid comedic head, I went, I'm going to make that into a joke. And I did. Twice.
Right.
And somebody decided to take it upon himself, to explain to me how Chris was, pushing me down and persecuting me by putting me in a chair that is smaller than my stature. Okay, first of all, yeah, I'm a big girl. That's my fault because I'm lazy and I like to watch Netflix and eat cereal a lot. Whatever. If I don't fit in a chair, that's my own damn fault. But it was a rolly chair. And if anybody has ever watched our show, ever, you know that I love to roll.
Yeah.
So I didn't appreciate someone telling me that Chris was trying to impress me, or oppress me, not impress me. He's trying to impress me by sitting in a fucking chair. It's a chair. We have incredibly more things to talk about, more things to battle, more things to be worried about within the feminist community than a fucking chair. So thanks, man, for pointing out to this poor little lady that I didn't understand that I was being oppressed by a fucking chair. Suck a cock.
Okay, and I don't think that could be stated more strongly.
No.
Now, there was, I only bring this up, this news article, this is our last bit on the Reason Rally here. This was from WND.com, which is it says it's the largest Christian news website that there is.
Can I just like to point out before we go into this, I very much was against talking about this article because I'm not a fan of the content.
But I just had one point to make about it. Now, the content of the article says, even atheists bash Reason Rally. And, of course, they would, take this slant, because this is a Christian, website.
That's not the problem. That's not what I had a problem with, by the way.
Yeah.
That is not... That.
Okay. Well,
you'll see. No, you'll see.
Well, they say here that the much promoted Reason Rally was held in Washington, D.C., had been touted as the largest gathering of atheists, freethinkers, and friends in history, but it drew only an estimated few thousand people at its peak.
Whatever.
Yeah. And, it wasn't about that, so, yeah, exactly, kind of a non-feature. Now, Ray Comfort is a Christian apologist who's featured in the article, and he couldn't be in the Reason Rally area because the police wouldn't let him be there. There were protesters there and whatnot, but he wasn't amongst them. But the thing
Tell me he wasn't amongst them.
Yeah, well,
don't lie to the people. Don't lie to the people.
But the thing that I thought was actually kind of awesome about this article was Penn Jillette of Penn and Teller fame was at the Reason rally. He's a noted atheist, and he met with Ray Comfort there. And in fact, he tweeted about it. Him and Lawrence Krauss, who's an astrophysicist who works in Arizona, who's also a noted atheist. They met with Ray Comfort there, and Penn said, I met Ray Comfort in D.C. I watched Lawrence Krauss answer all his questions, and then Ray tried to show me Jesus. And somebody tweeted back to Penn. They said, did it work? Are you an admitted sinner? Are you now saved? And Penn said, I don't feel any different, and nothing made sense. So, there you go. But he then tweeted to his 2 million followers, what a nice guy. And he had a picture here, which I'll throw up on screen for you guys who are watching this, of Ray Comfort and Penn Jillette smiling at the camera, and Penn's got his arm around Ray Comfort. And I thought that was a very good thing for WND to be promoting, because it kind of speaks right up against the whole stereotype of the mad, angry, militant atheist who just wants to bring down Christianity or believers in their own website. So that's why I thought, and this was trending on Google News today, so that's why I thought this was a good thing to...
Yeah, this article wasn't going to talk about, atheists are still good people. No. This article talked about, Ray Comfort's such a great guy, even atheists like him. Read all of his books. Here's all his bullshit that he's ever done and read. And he was going to give out gift cards to people to get fucking sandwiches. But he decided to give them to the homeless instead because the police wouldn't let him. He's such an amazing human being. He's a banana man, and he doesn't get why it's funny, why everyone laughs at him. He could be the nicest guy on the planet. The problem is, he still will sit there and tell me that I'm a terrible human being, I'm going to hell, I can't have power over my own body, whatever. I'm not a fan of this article.
Fair enough. I just thought that it was... that it was good to highlight the fact that tolerance and in the atheist and the believer side could occur, at least as shown here in the article.
You didn't have to go to this article to find it.
Just saying.
You didn't have to.
Just saying.
I could have told you this.
Yeah, we're moving right along now.
Please do.
So let's go to our next segment. In the news, it must not go ignored this week that although as much as actually we would like to ignore this news, it can't really be ignored that Bernie is no longer really in the race. Hillary is the presumptive nominee for the Democratic Party for president. None of us are really particularly surprised by this. Was there voter fraud? Was there manipulation? Were there trickiness and things like that? Of course there were. Is this something new and different that only Bernie Sanders has experienced in the presidential race? No, it's not.
I'd like to point out that we could be ignoring this, but Chris refuses.
I'm just saying that we've been talking about it so much that, we have to at least comment on the fact that this happened.
Okay.
So, and President Obama has endorsed Hillary Clinton today, so
right.
That happened. And, I've been thinking about this a lot, and we'll continue thinking about it as the months roll out because I got a lot of time until November. So I'm not really sure yet whether Hillary is going to be receiving my vote or not. But I just can't. If let me just say this: if for no other reason I can't vote for Donald Trump because he's the one who nominates Supreme Court justices, and there could be up to 3 new Supreme Court justices that go onto the bench over this next presidential term. And I, just have very basic philosophical differences with the Republican Party and Donald Trump when it comes to constitutional interpretation. And I don't want to see things like Roe versus Wade get overturned, which the Supreme Court has the power to do, and given enough conservative-leaning judges would do. And so that's the kind of thing that actually prompts me to think about who our next president is going to be, more so than I even think about short-term economic policies, or whether Donald Trump wants to spend millions of dollars building a wall, or what other foreign policy nonsense he might get up to.
Wall.
Of course, there's not going to be a wall, but I'm just saying.
What a ridiculous thing to push on people. I'm going to build a wall.
I know. So anyway, despite all the rhetoric or whatever, that Supreme Court justice thing is a very big deal. It's a bigger deal, I think, than pretty much anything else going on with long-term consequences for every single American citizen. Because the Supreme Court are the guys who interpret the Constitution when it comes to the law and
They're the people.
So
not the guys, they're the people.
Sorry, the people.
Couple women.
Yeah, I say that generically.
I know, but since we were talking about SJWs, I had to, man.
Of course.
I had to.
Of course.
Had to.
Well, let me just mansplain to you that I was just talking about that in a generic sense.
Oh, well, hang on. Let me spread.
You can't see it right now, but yeah, it's just full on. Wow.
I feel a little goofy right now.
As well you should.
I feel like there's too much space for what's going on down there.
Okay.
Doesn't feel good.
Yeah, so moving right along, we've got a couple other articles to talk about here. Now, this is international. A lot of stuff we cover tends to be U.S.-oriented, but Washington Post, June 9th, a UN judgment says Ireland's anti-abortion laws are a violation of human rights.
No shit, Ireland.
Well, this is kind of,
Salud, welcome to the party, man. What the hell are you talking about?
The United Nations Human Rights Committee announced a ruling Thursday on a case brought by Amanda Mellett, an Irish woman, who, after being told that her fetus would not survive her pregnancy, traveled to the United Kingdom for an abortion because of Ireland's laws prohibiting abortions in all cases except in which the mother's life is in danger. Now, did I know that? I did not know that. I was not aware that Ireland had that policy.
I'm not surprised because Ireland is incredibly Catholic.
Of course. I'm not surprised either. I just didn't really particularly note that. But the 29-page report that the committee put out used language that castigated the Irish government in very strong terms. It said that Ireland's ban on abortion subjected a woman carrying a fetus with a fatal abnormality to discrimination and cruel, inhuman, or degrading treatment. So I thought that was pretty interesting that the UN came down on that pretty hard.
It's just incredible to think about having to go to another country. I mean, people on Texas border does it all the time. New Mexico, they have to cross the country for a lot of things. But to cross a border into another country to get a basic medical procedure done. Yeah,
quite interesting. Now, according to the article here, a couple points, just so you guys are clear on this. Ireland, the UN committee does not have legal authority over Ireland. This isn't them dictating to Ireland, thou shalt or thou shalt not. It's basically making a very formal recommendation and asking for a formal response back from Ireland on this.
And it's pretty big. If the UN is coming to you and saying, hey, you're having human rights violations, that's pretty a big deal. Pretty much a big deal.
Exactly. And it also notes here that Ireland's abortion laws are the strictest in the 28-member European Union. And each year, thousands of Irish women travel to the United Kingdom to have an abortion. That's interesting. Just things you learn every day,
Yeah.
So that is something happening internationally. Now, closer to home, living in Colorado, where marijuana has been legalized for recreational use as well as medicinal use, we're sort of one of the 2 or 3 pilot states that this is kind of going forward in, right? Us, Washington State, and
Las Vegas has recreational now that you can actually go and buy it. And there's a few other places. Remember the couple that we met at Reason Rally was talking about it?
Oh, that's right. Yeah. That's right. And of course, Washington, D.C.
Washington, D.C., it is illegal for you to have it. you cannot purchase it.
Right.
Someone can gift it to you. So they don't have like the kind of stores that we do.
Right.
That Washington State does, that Las Vegas does.
Right. You can't just walk down the street and go visit a place and get it.
Right.
Now, California, I believe Oregon, a bunch of other states have laws on the books that okay medicinal prescriptions of medical marijuana. Mm-hmm. And this week, news out of Columbus, Ohio, is that of all people, former the Republican governor and guy who was running for president, John Kasich, signed a bill Wednesday legalizing medical marijuana in Ohio.
Okay.
Now this caught my eye because, of course, this is, I think they said, the 25th state to legalize a comprehensive medical marijuana program. So this is now approaching, in fact, this has now hit the halfway point in the United States. And I think that's something to notice, because I know my prediction is give it 10 years. And I think we'll have it on the federal books.
10 years, you think?
I think so. I think it's going to take another 10 years to go through the rest of the states and get medicinal and then get recreational, and then federal hops on board, unless the Fed hops on board earlier than that. Could be 5 years.
I think it might be a little bit earlier, but...
Could be. I'm not sure. I'm just not sure, law-wise, if the Fed passes it at a federal level and some states haven't, do they have the right to not do it? You know, that kind of thing. I don't know about the states' rights versus... national rights. Anybody out there, if you know, go ahead and leave us a comment.
I'm failing 7th grade civics right now. I'm having a moment.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I almost could have sworn that if it was legal federally, then that kind of trumps everything, but I don't think that's correct.
Yeah, I'm not 100% on this one. I think it depends on
what it is.
Yeah, I think so too.
Because, I mean, they, federally, marriage equality was passed, but there are still states who are making their own personal laws about it. So I don't know if that would go the same route or not. Exactly.
But we've got a movement happening right now. It's kind of a quiet movement. It's kind of just rolling out state by state. This is happening. And being a Colorado resident now for almost 2 years, I can tell you that there's no rioting in the streets. There's no looting of the stores. There's no crazy drivers out there high all the time, and all these car accidents or anything like that. No children in the schoolyards doping up. It's a very civil, controlled thing here, and I kind of look forward to it eventually going and being passed at a federal level, because it will make things so much easier in terms of tax collection.
Yeah.
And for the business owners who own dispensaries, because since it's not federally passed right now, no bank can accept money for these business owners who are running dispensaries.
Right.
Right, because the funds cannot be FDIC insured.
Right.
So they have to do cash-only business, and it's just an incredible pain in the ass for these guys.
Security is incredible. You hear about them getting robbed every now and then just because they have this massive amount of cash. They're not stealing pot. They're stealing cash.
Right.
Because you don't have to steal pot. You just buy that shit. But you need the cash to buy it, so they steal it.
Yeah.
And it's incredible.
Yeah. So anyway, that's kind of happening, and I thought it was interesting. I just think it's an interesting thing. I didn't realize until I read this article, 25 states have actually rolled this out now. So it's medically legal in half the country.
Right.
And
I think they're getting closer to passing it in Louisiana, which surprised the hell out of me.
I mean, I said 10 years. It's super conservative.
Right.
Could be 5.
Yeah.
This could gain momentum.
Oh, yeah.
As it gains acceptance. As people realize that there isn't rioting in the streets and lawless criminal anarchy because of pot.
Right.
It doesn't. If anything, believe me, getting a bunch of people high on this stuff kind of has the exact opposite effect.
No, okay. To that effect, are there people who are doing illegal things while high? Of course. Would they be doing it if they were high? Maybe, maybe not. It's just like with any recreational anything, somebody's going to do it the wrong way.
Well, you can always... Okay, this is like literally everything else that you're going to run across or see or read in the news. You can always find a horrible person doing a horrible thing and blame it on alcohol,
such.
drugs,
video game, metal music,
the fact he's
whatever.
a white guy. I mean, whatever. You can always find some scapegoat issue to back up a claim that it's anecdotal evidence.
Except for when girls say that we're doing stuff because of our period, because that shit's totally true. Sorry, I couldn't get through it.
So, this is why in the land of critical thinking and skepticism, we look at goofy things like statistics and evidence and not just anecdotal stories.
This is why I like to make Chris uncomfortable, because he just kind of goes, whatever, Ruth, and keeps on talking.
Yeah.
It's like, I didn't just hear all that information.
Now, this was kind of fun. This is out of Business Insider. And, one of the things that I think this was at Reason Rally. I think we heard this, not on stage, on the main stage, but I think in one of the smaller side events, was if you want to hear... real news. If you want to hear like what's really going on, read business news. Because business news is read by businessmen, and they make decisions based on that news. So they demand accuracy out of their news, as opposed to, say, celebrity news or National Enquirer or something like that, which is a bit, you don't go to People Magazine or Us to find, real hardcore investigative journalism.
No.
Right? But Business Insider is an example of some pretty good stuff. Now, this is actually just something I thought would be fun for some of the critical thinking people out there. This was from author Jacqueline Smith, a 33-year-old billionaire CEO, shares the one question he's been asking himself for the past decade. And I just caught my eye today. Again, it was in the news feed, and I just thought this was kind of cool. Now, this is Drew Houston is the CEO's name, and he's the CEO of Dropbox. And I think most of us use Dropbox.
Yeah.
I certainly do. And he was quoted about lessons he learned. He did this New York Times interview, and he said that one of the earliest leadership lessons he learned as a founder and CEO was that it's important to have a healthy paranoia for trying to find out what you don't know that you don't know.
Okay.
And I just thought that was kind of cool. He said to do that, he's always asked himself, and still does today, this question: in 6 months from now, 12 months from now, 5 years from now, what will I wish I had been doing today or learning today?
Right.
I just thought that was kind of cool. So I wanted to share that.
And you know what? That's a good one to kind of keep in the back of your mind. It actually goes along with the one that I keep in the back of my mind of, am I the smartest person in the room? Mm-hmm. And I know, don't laugh. Stop laughing. I know I'm not always the smartest one in the room. But that's on purpose. That's on purpose. No, it's one of those where if you feel like you know everything, then you stop realizing that you still have things to learn. And so that one was a really good one to me. I'm glad that you picked that one up, Chris, because it kind of goes along with my philosophy of there's always somebody who I could be learning from.
Exactly. And on that note also, he also mentions a quote from him on this. He says, "I have always wondered why people put so much energy into trying to have coffee with some famous entrepreneur when reading a book is like getting many hours of their most crystallized thoughts."
Right.
He said reading has been essential. So,
absolutely.
Go Mr. Houston there. Yes, Drew Houston. All right. Now, final story for the day, and this actually comes out of the Christian Science Monitor. And this is an environmental news. Big melt. Arctic sea ice hits record lows. With May seeing record lows, scientists are already concerned about what the Arctic will look like in September. And so we had a warm spring in the Arctic Sea, and the ice, right, we're talking about the Arctic now, the North Pole, reaching record low levels in January, February, and April. Now scientists say that May beat previous ice cover low records by a huge amount. Now, how much of an amount? An amount that covers so much territory that it's the same amount that the state of California takes up. That's how much more ice has melted up in the Arctic Sea this year compared to earlier record lows from 2012.
Wow.
So, yeah, we've never seen anything like this before. Mark Serres, the director of the National Snow and Ice Data Center, told the Washington Post. It's way below the previous record, very far below it, and we're something like almost a month ahead of where we were in 2012.
Wow.
So we're talking about a lot of ice, and what this does, let me see if I can find this here, is increases the, I think what this does, we'll link to the article here, but basically this raises sea level by like a meter. Now, in case you think, okay, there's a bunch of ice that melted up in the polar caps, who cares? Why does this have to do with me? One thing I liked about that was in this article is in the United States alone, rising sea levels could force up to 13.1 million people out of their homes. Already, the U.S. Department of Housing and Human Development has set aside $48 million to relocate the entire community of Isle de Jean Charles in Louisiana. Totally butchered that, of course.
Yep.
But they're taking this whole community to higher ground, right? Year by year, the quote here from Ted Scampos, the lead scientist of NSIDC, said, year by year it's slipping into a new state, and it's hard to see how that won't have an effect on weather throughout the northern hemisphere. So, yeah, climate change, dudes. It's all about the science.
What kills me is I grew up in the coast, the Gulf Coast. This is directly affecting my home. And I was having a conversation with my mother, and somehow climate change came up. And her reaction basically was, well, I don't really believe that. My thoughts are that the Earth is just doing what it does periodically, and we don't really have a big impact on it. And that's just my belief. And my good...
But, that's just my belief. It's just...
My good Southern girl was essentially going, you can't call your mother stupid. You can't call your mother... You can't argue back with your mother. You can't. But the liberal side in me is just screaming bloody murder. Mama, are you serious? All right. Drown then. You can't move up here when you can't live in your house anymore. Just can't do it. I got nowhere to put you. See, I'm talking to my mother and my accent comes out.
You hear that?
Works.
You hear what happens?
See what you did to me, Mama?
So, there's no statistical proof. Climate change, man-made climate change, yeah, it's not happening, not real. The Earth's just going through cycles, blah, 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 blah,
this
blah,
isn't
blah,
an
blah.
opinion. This isn't somebody going, well, I believe this. This isn't even a controversy anymore. There are scientists all over the planet. It's not a controversy. It's not, someone's in on something. Or, nothing. This is happening, folks. This is happening. Folks does not roll out of my mouth as easily as it does to some people. But this, and we really...
And also
we really stop pretending that our belief is going to be stronger than science.
Exactly. Another metric on this, by the way, and something you can look into for yourself is, I remembered now from the Reason Rally, it was Lawrence Krauss who actually told us about that thing about the business news. But another metric you can use in gauging how serious a situation actually is, or how seriously it's being taken, is to look at what the military is doing about it. What plans, what things are being done by military bases and by military planners in regards to climate change. And you might be surprised when you look into that and see how seriously they actually are taking it. And if this is all just some big myth and congressmen are just throwing snowballs around in Congress and it's just a big joke, and at the state level, nobody will even be allowed to utter the word climate change in Florida or Louisiana, or this is kind of nonsense that goes on at these levels. If you look at what's happening at a federal level, you're going to see that this is actually being taken very seriously. So just another metric for you to take a look at on this. Just saying. And with that, we are done with our... No, maybe not.
Except I have a surprise for Chris.
Oh, boy.
Chris does not know that this is happening. So I got in contact, or a listener got in contact with me, I should say, and we started scheming. And she has an Etsy shop. Her name is Dubelle. And you know her.
I know who this is.
She has an Etsy shop, and she saw your logo, and she thought your logo needed to be put in physical form.
What?
Yes. So
this is 1,000% a surprise right now. Just so you guys know, I had no idea what's going on right now. No idea.
But I would like to show this to Chris.
Oh my God.
And on the back here it says Critical Thinker at Large.
Wow. Wow.
And Duvall is a great listener. She's been listening to Chris since he started. She's been listening to us. And and she has an Etsy shop. I would like to put a link to her shop.
Absolutely. Look below, link right down there.
It's called I'm going to butcher this, Dubelle. I'm sorry. Belle's the Beast.
Okay.
So we will have a link to her shop. She has a lot of really neat cards, and she specially made this for you.
This is awesome. This is so awesome. Thank you very much. Thank you.
So she really thought that you should have that, and I did too. So we made it happen.
Aww.
And I'm actually kind of sad at myself. I've actually had that for almost 2 weeks now.
What?
Because I got it right after we filmed our last episode here, and then we were in DC.
Right, went to the Reason Rally.
And so here you are.
Aww.
Because, now I want a logo. So that was just something that she thought that you should have, and I thought so too, and there you are.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
Of course.
Yes.
And thank you, Dubelle, for getting a hold of me and making that happen for Chris. He's about to cry, I think. So yeah, now you can go ahead and end the show.
Okay, so now, now with this wonderful thing here that has happened, I feel so warm and fuzzy inside. We will be wrapping up our show now. Thank you very much for coming around. If you have any comments, feedback, originations for us, things you think we should be talking about, go ahead and leave it in the comments section below, whether here on YouTube, on Stitcher, on iTunes, or on our sensiblyspeaking.com website. We got lots of places, lots of ways to reach us, lots of ways to communicate to us. And we really, really, really love your feedback, and we love your communications. Yeah. And especially we love it when you, attempt to tell us how I'm oppressing Ruth.
Yeah.
We really dig on that. That.
I love telling people to go suck a cock. It's fun.
Yeah, it's awesome. So please keep that coming as well.
I'm a lady.
Oh yes. Oh yes. And we'll see. I think we've got some pretty good interviews lined up. For the coming weeks as well. By the way, some stuff I think you guys are going to be very interested in that has that's going to go in some science directions and things like that. So good stuff coming, and we will see you guys next week.
Thanks, y'all.